Welcome, friends. It's time to take flight with the Sega guys, spreading the fire of Sega like a pair of dragons. You've got myself, Dan the Mega Driver, and you've got the Lundy to my edge. It's James the Sagaholic. Mate, how you doing?
I'm very good, mate. Very good. How's yourself?
Good, mate. Good, mate. Been enjoying a bit of Sonic Superstars. Having a blast with that. It's not a masterpiece. It's not up there with the classics, but it's a very solid entry to the Sonic series. Better than Sonic R, better than the classic Sonic sections on Sonic Generations. So, been loving that. I'm trying to finish off a bunch of games as well. I've spent 80 hours in Yakuza 7, and I need to get to the end game of that. I just got past one of the bosses, which I have to grind to get to. Likewise with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I'm 95 hours into that, and I've just got to level up enough to fight the last boss. And I'm 60 hours into Grandia on the Saturn, and it's a similar situation there. The end game on these games is killing me. I just want to finish them now. I just want them to be over. You know, first 40, 50 hours, they're great, but now I'm sick of them. just end.
Just finish it off, please. Oh, well, no such joy there, mate. I've not been playing much at all, really. Let's say, apart from trying out Tomb Raider last weekend, unfinished business kind of port, and you done some job getting the Superstars video out as well. That was whenever you messaged me on WhatsApp and said, I've got a Superstars video ready, I was like, you what? Already?
Yeah, it was literally record footage as much as I can, upload it from the Xbox, upload it to OneDrive, sat down, just recorded 10 minutes of audio. I was conscious that it sounded like me rambling for a bit of it because I didn't have a script or anything. I was like, I don't have time to write a script. I've got to go straight into it.
Just go straight into it, mate. That's it.
Yeah. And then I took a bit of editing. And then that was it. Fastest I've ever turned one round, I think. Remember, I spent a lot of time doing Yakuza, so I didn't do anything flashy with it. But hope the looks like the response has been pretty warm to it. I think a lot of people are of a pretty similar opinion to me about how it is and where it sits in the pantheon of Sonic classics. But it's good fun. I've been trying to get my my family to play it with me. I might get my youngest daughter to play it with me. The others aren't interested.
No, I did notice that the kind of comment section and even stuff on X these days as well has been quite kind of similar, opinion wise. So, it didn't seem as if any kind of early reviews kind of came out either. It seemed to be everybody kind of got their hands on it maybe through maybe pre-orders arriving a bit early. Apart from mainstream media, I think IGN did their review like 2 days before it came out.
Yeah,
there was no major early kind of reviews of it.
It was weird because I think there's a few outlets that breached the street date in the US, so quite a few people got their copy really early. Some got it a week early, which is crazy. But I don't think there was many review copies that were flying about too early. I mean, it's a solid game. Unfortunately, it's launched within 4 days of Spider-Man 2. Within a week of the new Super Mario game, which is getting rave reviews. It's just a shame that it was by RZS and it's not a true Sonic team, or even the Christian Whitehead backed.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been great as well. But it's solid enough. But mate, today it's not about Sonic or Yakuza. It's about a Sega franchise, which is, I suppose, almost forgotten. Did get a little bit of a resurrection. God, how long ago was that now? It must have been a couple of years.
Well, a good couple of years now for the remake. I mean, there was rumours of the sequels remake, which have kind of vanished into thin air as well. We were expecting to see that at some point, and that's not occurred.
Yeah.
So, we are revisiting the wonderful Panzer Dragoon series.
That's right. If the footage on the monitor, if viewers can see it, didn't give it away.
Zwei running.
So yeah, this was one that threw into the mixer late today. Like, fancy talking about Panzer Dragoon. So it was just to talk about the legacy it leaves, what we love about it, and basically what makes this series so special. We were saying we won't go into a full retrospective of it because this is we know since we've made the move to video now, we do have dedicated retrospectives where we can go into. So this would just be, just a good old-fashioned Sega Guys discussion around what makes this series great, our personal experiences, and why it's so special to us. But I suppose a bit of brief history has probably helped, though. I mean, for anyone that's not familiar with the series, what is Panzer Dragoon? It's a rail shooter, which, mate, do they even make them these days?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think the kind of earliest influence you could maybe say Panzer Dragoon has is maybe something like Star Fox.
Yeah.
Very similar third-person view, on rails, enemies coming towards you, lock-on targets, etc. But, Panzer Dragoon took that formula and just expanded on it. The sheer scale of the world you were in, even though you were on rails, there was just so much going on around about you. But at the same time, it felt quite kind of desolate, isolated, apocalyptic.
Yeah.
So, I don't see anything like that. Everything's all now. You've got the open world, and now you can go wherever you want. There's no limit to where you can go.
Yeah.
Whereas Panzer Dragoon led you down a set path, but it didn't detract from the experience at all. You still felt very much in control. There was an element of movement side to side. Obviously, you're up and down your X-Y axis. You could control the dragon that way. But what Panzer Dragoon did bring in that was amazing was the shoulder button, the rotation, your 360 movement. Yeah. So you could also have your radar in the top corner, and enemies were shown on there. You had to swivel round, and you could choose to fire your manual weapon or your weapon from the dragon itself. So it definitely expanded on that whole kind of Star Fox model. But it's just a series, as you said, mate, that seems to have had its small resurrection and then has vanished again.
Yeah, so the expectation is still that the team that brought back who did the first remake, and they also did House of the Dead, are meant to be working on a remake of Zwei. But yeah, spot on, mate. I mean, there aren't many rail shooters around today. I mean, Star Fox Zero was 8-9 years ago now. There's not many games of this type at all. But for anyone that hasn't ever played a rail shooter, it basically is just you or your avatar, usually a spaceship or a plane. In this case, a dragon. In Space Harrier's case, a guy on a jetpack with a cannon under his arm. But zooming forward, was blasting away at everything in front of you. There's not much to it, but immensely fun. Just pure old school arcade action. And as you say, mate, Panzer Dragoon expanded on that by letting you rotate the camera all 360 degrees around you, which is what made it special. Now, originally this was developed by Team Andromeda, by Yukio Futasugi. What makes me laugh about this, mate, is he was doing what he calls menial jobs in Sega. I don't know what menial means. Maybe admin tasks. I can't imagine that he was, cleaning the toilets or anything like that. But,
no.
But I imagine he was just doing, bits and bobs around, like an intern sort of thing. And he pitched this idea to Sega, and they went, right, yep, here you go. Here's a team of 15.
Could have been that menial a job if they gave him a team of 15 people.
I know. So yeah, he was given this team of 15, which became Team Andromeda in 1994. Started work. It was one of the things I think we saw the earliest screenshots for in some of the magazines. Didn't have a name back then. It was just called like Dragon Game or something like that. You saw the earliest I saw of it was stills amongst a lot of Saturn and 32X rumors. Right. And at the time, I don't think I knew whether it was. There was nothing about it at all that I really knew. It was just, this is an image of something that's coming. Apparently, the initial idea was to use vehicles, but early on it moved to dragons, which I can see
quite a shift into that. How do you get from cars and trucks, dragons? Glad he made that decision, because there's something quite cool about dragons.
Yeah, I mean, his words were, "Who doesn't want to ride a dragon?"
There you go. That's right.
Yeah, but then he started working on the lore and developing the worlds. I think one of his influences was Dune, and there was a few others, wasn't there?
Yeah, It's the influence was Arzak, which was a series by the French artist Jean Giraud, or Giraud, how you pronounce it, but he goes by the alias of Mobius. So, that was the influence on the kind of artistic style. And Mobius would then go on to do the cover for the Japanese version of the game, which is absolutely gorgeous. Like, on this show we've spoken, I think American Saturn box art is just not great. Like, I just think the choices
That's very polite.
I'm trying not to. I don't want to offend Dave and Pat. That's the thing, It's like, but it's shite. It's just, I can't stop myself for saying it. But it's some really, really poor choices. Whereas I think the PAL cases, and this is the same across all Sega systems, we tended to mirror the Japanese choices. Like the one I always cites, like Crazy Taxi. Like Crazy Taxi's American cover on Dreamcast is awful. Like, yeah. But it's just this really bad artistic impression of Axel front on in the cab with people flying out, whereas the Japanese and PAL covers are just a really nice plain yellow with the logo, and it's so simple, but it just works.
Yeah.
And the PAL case for Panzer Dragoon is just gorgeous 3D render of lead character on the dragon with his gun out. But the Japanese one, my God, it's so nice. It's so detailed and just so artistic, kind of almost like inspired by Mobius's actual drawing work himself. So, it would be nice if we got a version of that, because it's absolutely glorious.
It's gorgeous, yeah. I need a big pic of it for me wall, actually. This is one of the best pieces of art for any game, I think. Yeah, the PAL version's got the kind of the game render, hasn't it? It's obviously the CG models that are used in the cutscenes in the game.
Yeah.
Whereas the American one, the US one, it just seems to be something custom. And the thing that strikes me is the light coming out of the dragon's mouth, and because it's obviously done in a rush, there's just no light anywhere else. So it's like it just really looks off. It's just American.
But the Digital Foundry here, didn't we? It's like,
yeah, I know, going into the box art,
light sourcing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the thing that strikes me as I look at it, and it's like, well, if the light's there's no light anywhere else.
Aye.
And it just looks poor. And we won't go into any other box art, because the Guardian Heroes one is the one that always gets me. The US box art with the really weird picture of the golden warrior. It's just like, what were they thinking? But but anyway, Panzer Dragoon, it was a launch game in the US for the Saturn.
Yeah.
Came out a couple of months after launch in the UK. Obviously in Japan, the Saturn had been out since Christmas, and Panzer Dragoon came out July time. Was a success, well regarded on release, sold fairly well, and as such, a couple of sequels with the greenlit. And they said, all right, so first of all, you're going to make a sequel, but secondly, you need to make an RPG to combat Final Fantasy VII, which is no small task.
No pressure at all. But the game went down well, reviewed well. It was definitely I think one of the terms that you used whenever we touched on Panzer Dragoon previously on the show was that it was probably the first real technical showpiece for the system. Although as good as Virtua Fighter was, Sega put a lot of stock on the impact of Virtua Fighter, and I've said before that I really think Panzer Dragoon should have been, if they were going to be hell-bent on doing a pack-in game, then I think to show what you were getting out of the box, I think retrospectively looking back, I think Panzer Dragoon would have been a far better choice, because it really does just show a lot of promise in terms of the texture mapped, fluid animation. Okay, it's on rails, but great combat, that 360 movement, it brought a lot of things that hadn't been seen in console gaming wise. But that's we know what Sega's like when it comes to decision making, mate.
Yeah, Virtua Fighter made sense in Japan, where it was a phenomenon. I think by the time this airs, we'd have had our Virtua Fighter retrospective out, and Virtua Fighter wasn't a worldwide phenomenon worldwide. So the impact wasn't as big bundling it with the Saturn. I mean, for me, Virtua Fighter was the biggest game there was, but you know, for
Aye.
the casual player, I think Panzer Dragoon would have been been a great back in a demonstration. You know, put that up against the likes of Ridge Racer, etc. Instead of and then people can go out and buy Daytona USA and Virtua Fighter, which Daytona USA, as we saw from the leaked Sega documents from '96, was a massive seller for the Saturn. So maybe more people picking up Virtua Fighter instead, or maybe do different bundles. Who knows, mate? Hindsight's 2020. I'm sure
Exactly.
with a discussion we'll get into another sort of day of what they could have done. But just thinking back to our own personal experiences about the games now. So, where did you first see Panzer Dragoon in motion?
You put this to me earlier, and I had a right good think about it. So I remember there's a very small clip of footage in the Saturn launch advert with Valkyrie. But if I'm going to sit here and be honest, I'm not going to say that I initially seen it and went, "Oh, that's Panzer Dragoon," because at that point in time, you had no idea what that was. It was just a case. It was an advert that came out when it launched. I seen it once on a weekend, and I never seen it again. So, for me, the first time I seen Panzer Dragoon would have been when I got my hands on it, and that was, again, my uncle came back from work. I was up there at the weekend, and he just dropped it on the couch and went, "Oh, I picked this up." I'm like, "All right, okay, cool." Put it in and just, and that would have been round about the time it came out. It was pretty close, I would imagine, because that's just the kind of shit he did, man, was just buying new stuff. So it would have been, if not that kind of launch week, but pretty close after that. I'm not going to sit here and try and nail down a date. It would have been pretty close to when it came out. And it was mind-blowing to actually, again, to see something like that back then. In '95, because it was 7 weeks between it coming out, obviously it launched with the American system. Why it took 7 weeks to bring it out in the PAL region, I don't know why, but that was kind of late mid-August that we got it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty well PAL optimized.
Aye.
So maybe that was it. So,
but no, it was stunning to see it in motion. That with yourself, that title screen. The camera flying over the desert. Aye, okay, the little bits of foliage in the dunes in the desert pop in as this camera goes over it, but it's just that trumpet kind of orchestral music that plays as the camera pans and the shadow of the dragon flies over and then the logo appears. Oh, poetry, mate. Absolutely amazing. So I would say that apart from the initial footage on the Valkyrie advert, but I can't try and claim that as the first time I remember seeing it. I know it's in there because I know what the Valkyrie adverts got in it, but at that time I never sat there and went, "Oh, there's Panzer Dragoon. I know that game." So it would have been whenever I got my hands on an actual copy of it and played it. What about yourself?
So for me, I was trying to solve this mystery before we hit the record button. So I have a very vivid memory of the first time that I saw it. It was actually on a gaming channel, not a gaming channel, a gaming show. It must have been a terrestrial UK channel. This was before Channel 5, so it was either BBC One, ITV, or Channel 4. It would have been 1995. Now I thought it was Cybernet. Cybernet started airing in 1995, but looking at Lucy Longhurst doing the narration for it.
Dr. Lucy Longhurst.
Yes.
She's a psychologist now.
That's right. I used to love that show. Used to watch it on ITV, and then when it moved over to, I think it moved over to what was the children's channel on cable and Sky. I used to watch it on there. Yeah, used to watch it on there. But my earliest memory of Panzer Dragoon, aside from, I remember seeing the images in the magazines, but I had no frame of reference. So I didn't put two and two. I didn't realise they were the same thing until many years later. But the first time I actually saw it was they're saying, "Oh, this is what the next generation is all about. This game looks amazing. You can cycle around," and they were explaining what the game was about, and I was like, "Wow, this looks incredible!" And straight away I was mind blown. And I've said before, at the time the Saturn to me was something that I wanted, but just thought, this is a 400 console. I'm never going to own one. I'm going to keep saving for a 32X. But just made this kind of impossible dream of owning what I thought was the greatest games console in the world. Not only does it have Virtua Fighter and Daytona USA, but it has this thing as well. I need to get one. So, yeah, that was the first time I saw it in motion. Was on whether it was Cybernet, whether it was Bad Influence. I don't think it was, but whatever it was, I saw it on ITV because I know it was a terrestrial channel.
Mate, that was movies, games, and videos.
Possibly.
Remember that?
I do remember that. What time was that on during?
That was like a Saturday morning, late morning.
Oh, no, this would have been a weekday.
Was it?
Yeah, it was when my mum used to work in the doctor's surgery, in the afternoons, and after school we'd go to my nan's house and we'd watch. That's where my dad had got a Sky, and I think we had cable at the time in our house, but my dad just had terrestrial. But then we just got into things like, Biker Grove. We were hooked on Biker Grove at one point.
Biker Grove.
Exactly. So it's definitely either bad. It wasn't Games Master. It was definitely either Bad Influence or it was Cybernet or something else. But yeah, that was where I first saw it. And then the next time I saw it was kind of when, because must have been pre-launch, because it was kind of a news article to say this is the new game. And then the next time I saw it was after launch, and as I said before, I walked into what was Electronics Boutique at the time in Watford, and I was like, oh my god, the Saturn's there. When did that come out over in the UK? And they had it on the TV, playing. The TV was attached to the ceiling, and I was just looking up in absolute awe at it. But yeah, that was the first. It left a hell of an impression. Yeah, sadly, I didn't actually get to play it until a lot later. But yeah, so I suppose the next question really was, when did you first get to play it? For a few, it's kind of the same thing, isn't it? Because you first got to play it when your uncle brought it home. And
yeah. I mean, the thing is as well, I still remember the kind of retail kind of slight bias against it as well, because I think I've mentioned this before, but there's a shop called Game Zone in Partick, and Stewie, you'll know Game Zone, mate. You're as old as me, you'll remember it. You know Partick, mate. I know Stewie will be watching or listening. And there was a guy in there, and he was most of the staff were very pro PlayStation, but I always remember someone went in and they had Panzer Dragoon running on a wee CRT on the left-hand side of the shop as you walked in, and people inquired about it. I always remember this guy with his big, stupid, padded shoulder jacket. He's at people, that's Panzer Dragoon on the Saturn, but it's not that great. Not that great. I was like, would you like to see Ridge Racer instead? And you're like, oh, come on, man. It's like, just, people were being drawn to it whenever they had it. Obviously, they got it and it was new, they'd put it on, but they were still dissuading people from it,
Yeah.
Obviously, I know the PlayStation at the time, but it definitely turned heads. So, as I said, playing it for the first time, the sheer scale of it is what kind of grabbed you. As I said, it's got that kind of very desolate, post-apocalyptic, you against the world kind of outlook. But you've got this kind of feeling of, even from the start, you feel powerful.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as if like you need to, obviously in Zwei, and we'll come and touch on Zwei, your dragon evolves. Even in Saga, later on you can morph your dragon into different battle formations and stats, but in Panzer Dragoon 1, you're just literally, the dragon is as is. But you straight away, you swoop down for the sky, across the water, the runes sticking out for the water. Those, I think they look like big geese. You know what I'm talking about? They look like big geese, and they squeak when you shoot.
Yeah,
you shoot them.
Oh, I could hear it when you first said the big geese. I could hear them getting shot.
But yourself, you've got the wee red weird enemies that are hanging from the kind of big archways, and you can target 6 of them at once and just blow them away and they drop into the water and it splashes and it's just so much going on. It just made such an impression.
Yeah, no, it really did. And the thing that always that I, on reflection, it's one of the very earliest games that kind of merged a true cinematic presentation and set pieces with traditional gameplay. You had like glimpses of it in the past. You had things like Flashback, where you had that intro that was like rotoscoped, and obviously the animation that was rotoscoped, but obviously there was no. It was very light on that, like sound effects, etc. You had stuff, you had Night Trap and things like that, which were FMV, or you'd have FMV intros. But the way that Panzer Dragoon was the narrative was so interwoven with the rest of the game in the cutscenes and everything else. It feels like it's kind of the template for kind of where we are now, because I can't think of a game that was doing what Panzer Dragoon did. You had RPGs, you had your Final Fantasies, etc., with your speech bubbles, etc. Obviously, the latest was like Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger back then, but they were obviously 2D. They weren't swooping cinematic set pieces. It really does feel like this. That's the earliest example of the sort of things we see today with our, what Sony are huge on, with the big movie-like experiences. And it feels like the template for that almost. It laid a lot of the groundwork, I think.
I mean, look, you see, even if you think back to the PlayStation 1 era, what was the one thing, apart from having arguably a lot of the biggest franchises at that time, but the one thing that games were always known for was those bloody intros.
Yeah.
Like every game had, especially your Namco games, like think of like Soul Edge's intro, Tekken 2, Tekken 3's intro. They've even Ridge Racer Type 4, Rage Racer, they've all got these CG intros. It was something that made the play.
Yeah.
It was a hallmark of the PlayStation at that time. But Panzer Dragoon did that first, and that opening cinematic is, again, it sets the tone for the scale, because the little three riders go along the canyon, quite minding their business, and then the kind of animal goes through the sand and then bursts out, and one of them falls off, and then they're kind of chasing that, and they look up, and then the kind of blimp comes overhead and casts the shadow, and obviously you see what happens. The dragon swoops down, and they get the explosion, they get taken away, and then the rider gets killed and passes on all his knowledge.
Yeah.
Which is just, and everything about that. And if you look at it now, it's a bit kind of pixely and blurry, but at the time, setting the scene the way it did, so good. And
it really was.
The music that goes with it as well is just, yourself, you can hear it. It's just amazing.
It really was. And yeah, I do. And oh god, the amount of times that we're like, when we first got Saturns and PlayStations, like me and my friends back in like 96, 97, the amount of times we'd stick a disc in and go, hang on, we got to watch the intro. We got to watch the intro before we get started. And then Namco did it a lot, but they didn't have one in the original Tekken. I mean, they were present in stuff like Mega CD games and stuff. And, even back to Sonic CD, that did it. But for Panzer Dragoon, I just feel it's so interwoven into the rest of the game. It's all consistent, isn't it? Like, here's an FMV intro, and here's a game that looks nothing like it.
Aye.
Obviously the renders in the intro for Panzer Dragoon are extremely higher quality compared to what the 3D in the game, but the models are recognizable. The blimp, as you say.
Aye.
It's all consistent with the game, and it just helps immerse the player in that world, in that setting, in like a game like no other. And it's basically just a roller coaster ride, isn't it? It just takes you from as you're flying through. It's tough. It's not an easy ride, but
aye, it's also a game that likes to kind of toy with you a wee bit, because if you played it on easy, it would only let you get as far as stage 3, stage 3 or stage 4. And then once you finish, I think it's stage 4, because I think it lets you get as far as stage 4, which is the one you go, which again is phenomenal visually. They're going through all those kind of brown and gold kind of tunnels and dropping down, and you finish that, and yourself, if you hit a certain amount of hit completion. You know, your percentage is high, you get extra credits.
Yeah.
So like if you finish your first 3 levels and you've got really high percentage of hitting enemies with hardly any missed, you've some credits. It's like Eddie Murphy, get some credits, fucking now, got some credits. It's like right, and then it goes, thank you for playing. Please try on a harder difficulty.
Yeah.
You're like, bastard. It's like you've done all that work, and then whenever you put it onto normal, the step up is noticeable.
Yeah.
You know, enemies, they're far quicker to fire, they're more accurate. The game doesn't fire extra lives at you, you know, for completion. You need to earn your extra credits.
Yeah.
But it's tough.
That fifth stage still
Oh,
always brings me close to the. If I don't always beat it, and if I do it with a sliver of health. It's
yeah.
Find the stage after it easier, like the final stages, but that one is a massive pain. But yeah,
Pain, mate. Yep, I agree with that.
but yeah, I mean, we'll get on to why we feel these games are so special. But yeah, I didn't actually play the original game until well, it must be about 2000, because the Dreamcast was dead by then. By the time I finally picked up a copy of the game for me to play myself. So my first experience with Panzer Dragoon was actually Panzer Dragoon Zwei.
Right.
And I'd seen it. Obviously, I was picking up magazines at the time. I was picking up what was Saga magazine before it got the rebrand. I was picking up Mean Machine Saga and stuff like that, CMVG, and I knew that Panzer Dragoon Zwei was going to be brilliant. But when I got my Sega Saturn with Daytona, Sega Rally, and Virtua Fighter 2, what came with the Sega Flash Volume 1 disc.
That's right. Yeah.
Obviously, we talked about demo disc before on the on our demo disc podcast, but yeah, I played the Panzer Dragoon demo, which is the forest stage.
That's right. Yeah.
And
Stage 3.
yeah, and everything that hit me about that was it was love at first sight. The music, the sounds, the gameplay, the multiple routes, the way it tots up everything at the end, the massive boss. You know, the boss is phenomenal in that. You know, and it's jumping around, swinging from the trees, launching its tail at you, and then like screeching at you.
That's right.
It's got like a alien xenomorph head, isn't it? It's
That's right. Very, very similar in shape.
It's but it was phenomenal, and that was just like, I wanted Virtua Fighter 2, I wanted Daytona USA, and I wanted Nights into Dreams, and then it was just like, I need to get Panzer Dragoon Zwei, and then I picked it up as soon as I had the money after, I think.
Aye. That Sega Flash demo, it really, and again, it just up to kind of the visual standard as well, you know, in terms of detail, you know, 60 FPS as well. Just the kind of VDP2 flexed its muscles big time. It was like some of the set pieces in that game are just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's, you know, when I finally got it, I think I was initially, because I knew that in Panzer Dragoon 1 you start straight off, you know, like you go that straight in, and everyone knows Flight, you know, the song Flight, as you come in, you're straight in, as you say, you feel powerful, gun down those enemies. In Panzer Dragoon 2 you have that whole narrative with Lundy, and you know, he finds the mutant coolia, you know, they're cursed. You're meant to kill him, but I couldn't kill him because little Laggy, he had wings.
Have you seen the cutscene at the start? He kind of gets back to his wee hut and opens the door, and it's just sitting there looking up like a Labrador puppy.
Yeah. That's it. It's brilliant. It's so well done, that scene. You instantly you get that connection with the two of them, and then he comes. He's trying to. He's like, "I'll make you fly today." Trying to get it to fly. And then I was initially disappointed because, you know, after playing the demo, after seeing the first game, not actually getting to play it, but seeing the first game, playing the demo, I just wanted to fly around and blast the crap out of everything. But first stage, you start off on the back while it's stomping around, and they're just blowing your little village to smithereens. And yeah, I got it, and I was just like, I want it to fly. But then obviously that leads up to that amazing set piece in stage 2, where where you're making your way through that desert just after escaping from the Empire or whoever it was that's blown up your village, and then he jumps off the ledge and then he starts gliding down and flying. It's just there's moments in gaming that are just simply magical, and that's absolutely one of them.
And the thing as well, see, what always struck me about the first stage as well, you're right in that the first game makes you feel powerful from the off, and it does make you feel that this is an infant dragon, but
yeah,
the kind of the hills and the mountains either side are just so vast, and always got like War of the Worlds vibes, because like the big kind of blimp style enemies just loom over.
Yeah.
They start to appear overhead. It's almost like, I'll say, like War of the Worlds, the tripods standing up. That it just reminds me of that. Just these massive enemies that you've got no right to even think about taking on, just appearing on the horizon. But I know what you mean. As it progresses, it just every stage just ups the ante. Every part of it just gets better and better. I mean, the third stage was spoke about, obviously the forest stage, but the fourth level is very reminiscent of the fourth level in the first game. Very similar.
Yeah.
But what are the water effects like in that?
I know they're absolutely phenomenal. It's just, especially since they're translucent as well.
Aye.
And you see that the boss is really odd. It's like a giant chicken. But with a massive barbed tail, and it keeps doing these somersaults at you, and the music's all like a choir in the back. It's like, oh. And but yeah, it dips underwater, and I was just, it's transparent.
They said it could do transparencies.
Yeah, it's the game it's done transparency since day one. The lasers are transparent, and in the second game you get the transparent water effects. On the snow stage that's on your screen now, you got like some transparent effects on the icebergs. It's Zwei did so much right, and after I think the original Panzer Dragoon, John Linneman, I think he said that the original run runs around 20 frames per second, but Zwei locks it at 30. And it's just an absolutely flawless 30 frames per second presentation. It's just, for me, it's the greatest rail shooter ever made, and it's just an absolute masterpiece. What is it the disc says in the Japanese one? One of the finest shooters ever made, brought to your I can't remember what it is now.
I mind either.
Yeah.
Is it 30? I thought it ran at 60.
No, it's 30.
It must be. Well, you must be. It must be a lot, because it feels so fluid.
It does, yeah.
Oh, it's just gorgeous. I mean, that snow stage that you mentioned again there, the water beneath you is just so murky but translucent. There's so much going on. The explosions, the enemies, all these, the colours, your lasers, the snow effects are just constantly coming at the screen. I mean, I think there's a reason why it was Zwei that they used in the Saga of America adverts. Yeah. Sorry, PlayStation. This is what's possible when you have 8 processors. But Zwei stands up to anything on PS1. Anything.
Yeah.
Without doubt.
It stands alongside, in my opinion, it stands alongside Virtua Fighter 2 as the most visually impressive game of that period. And yeah, it stands up to anything on PlayStation or N64. Star Fox came after Star Fox 64. Was it the same? No, it's the year after. It was 97 Star Fox, which I love. Star Fox 64. It's one of my favourite games, and it's my favourite game on the N64. But still, for me, it doesn't hold a candle to Panzer Dragoon Zwei. And graphically, although there's a bit more going on, it's still quite low resolution compared to Zwei. It's a lot blurrier. It's like some smeared Vaseline all over it. Great game, but Zwei takes the crown for me. But did you first play Zwei via that demo as well?
Yeah, Sega Flash. It was on Volume 1 and 2.
Oh, was it on 1 as well?
It was on 1 and 2. Yeah, same level. But again, I didn't ever own Zwei. Sam had Zwei, so that's how I got to play. He would bring it up to mine, and I would play it at his. So that was one that I never actually owned. So you and I have got very contrasting. Again, I picked up Zwei. My first copy I owned of Zwei was a Japanese one, and that's after I'd got Dreamcast on import, and then it kind of opened my eyes to the import scene. So I went, I'm going to go back and do the Saturn import stuff. So my first copy of Zwei was actually a Japanese one, but it was like way after the fact. My only experience of playing Zwei on the Saturn at the time it came out. Just look at that level that's running just now, man. Jesus.
The ship level blew my mind. That sixth episode, just the scale of it, and that was the mind blowing thing about it, is you're on this dragon. And dragons, the perception is they're huge, powerful creatures, and your rider on there is just this tiny little bloke on this giant dragon. But when the dragons, jumping in and fighting these armies and these monsters and everything, and they're absolutely huge, and that ship, the Shellcoof it's called, it's just gargantuan. The draw distance seems to go on forever in it. The frame rate doesn't skip a beat, and you've got all these other things all attacking you, swooping in, lasers going everywhere, fire going off. Then you go into the tunnels and you pop out the other side of the ship, and then you blow down the wings and you go through it again, pop up underneath. It's absolutely unreal, and it's just, there's nothing else like it that generation, I don't think.
No, I mean, and C as well, you're talking about kind of draw distance as well. It's the second stage where you're kind of above the clouds. So that's after you drop down and start flying, but you're above the clouds, but also the mountain tops are kind of peeking through. But it's got this, obviously you've got the draw distance there, so you've got the kind of horizon, the kind of sun setting in the distance. You've also got this beautiful kind of smog, kind of like wispy cloud effect around the base of the mountain peaks that are, and you do feel as if you're soaring up, at great heights. It just, again, VDP2 just coming into the zone there, just that horizon is just, the draw distance is insane. But that part of the second level, just, there's so many set pieces in Zwei that just make you go. And I think even today, I think you'd need to be a real stingy bastard to not at least appreciate Zwei if you've seen it today. Even if you've never played it before, if somebody went, look, this is a game from what was it, 96?
96 it was, mid 96.
So this is 96 on a Saturn. Would you make of that? It would have to impress, because it still blows my mind to this day.
No, mine as well. But so after Zwei, I was just fully in love, fully on board with Panzer Dragoon. For some reason, didn't get the first one. I think I was. I don't think I had enough pocket money. There were so many Saturn games that I wanted at the time. I think Alpha 2 was next on my list to get, and then we went from there. But obviously, the next game that took my eye was Panzer Dragoon Saga, and that was one that I was following since it got announced in Saturn Power. It was the first time I saw it, and was just following the development of it over the months in both Saturn Power and Sega Saturn magazine. And of course, Sega Saturn magazine, Rich Ledbetter with that massive coup in getting the demo disc, which was just the entirety of this one.
Aye, that's just, people, as I said before on here, talking about Saga, people call it a demo disc. The only relation it has to a demo disc is that it was free on the front cover of a magazine. It's the full retail disc. If you bought the retail copy, your save carried over. It was the exact same disc. It came in the box. Insane. And what a game. I was the same as you. I was following this one, like Sega Saturn magazine, doing multiple previews, multi-page spreads on it. And I know Sega Lord X isn't a massive fan of Saga. I think the problem that Saga has is that I think a bit of its impact is lost because of its rarity. I think there's two distinct, maybe even three distinct camps. There's the people who had Saga when it came out. There's people who have got it, who are fans of the Saturn and Panzer Dragoon as a whole, and have managed to get it later on and just love it for what it is. And then you've got the third, which is people who I think have got it because of its rarity. I think it's got that allure about it. And perhaps in a way, to some people, its rarity and its price can maybe be a hindrance, because it might not live up to. People go, this is a £700 game, and they put it on, and it might not feel to them like a £700 game. They're playing it expecting something that they're not going to get. Whereas
Yeah.
I think for us, we look back at it like, you've got the story of falling off the bike, smashing the disc, my God, having to source another copy, and also myself, I literally within 45 minutes of playing that first disc, I was on gameplay.com. I don't even think it was .com back then. Was it .com? It was just
Might be.
gameplay. It was just hello, I'd like to order a game, please. Did that code you have to,
Yeah, I
you give
remember
them
the code.
you give them your card details. It would, take money whenever the it was always shipped, and you always got it a day early. Gameplay always delivered a day early. But I just think for those of us who got to experience it, the demo or the disc on the cover of Sega Saturn magazine, got to pick it up and just, again, the music in these games, like Behold the Precious Wings on the title screen, even the intro for Saga. I don't know what the track for the intro isn't on the bloody soundtrack on Spotify. See if you want to hear the song that's in the intro.
The Azel theme. Yeah,
I can't find that in the Spotify playlist.
It's the Azel theme, isn't it? Or is it slightly different? Because I think that's under.
Because the chorus part, the doodle-doo,
Yeah, that's all in. That's
aye.
all in the. So it's probably called the Azel boss fight or something like that.
Aye.
So
is that part of it? You see that the kind of the drums at the start.
Yeah.
I just want that actual edit, that bit for the intro. It's so good.
It is on there, but yeah, it's fantastic, mate. And yeah, I do think I do find some of the criticism of it a bit odd. So I know that there's a section of Saturn fans who, they are people that grew up with the Saturn, or that had the Saturn from day one and were keeping an eye on Saga like we were. Loved the original two games like we did, or but I think they were expecting another rail shooter and were disappointed that it wasn't, and I think that's one of the frequent complaints. But I don't see the issue with it so much. Sonic the Hedgehog has been on whatever. Mario has been on every sort of game known to man. He's in fighting games, racing games, board games.
Aye.
Don't get anyone say, "Oh, why is Mario in a board game?" So I've never really understood that criticism. It's not uncommon for games to kind of branch out and do something different. It's kind of expected. Sonic had branded a Puyo game, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
Yep.
We'd had Sega Sonic Arcade, or at least seen it and played it. I'd played it by this point, and that was the isometric game. It was nothing like the 2D games. It was, it's not even a platform game. It's an action game.
Sonic Spinball, mate.
Sonic Spinball. I'm not getting into it right now, but not a fan of it. But I didn't begrudge it existing. I just begrudged it because it was shit.
Moving on.
But yeah, I didn't. I didn't understand. I don't understand the criticism of it. I don't know if there's a view that because of the trials and the tribulations that Team Andromeda went through with that. Obviously, they were well overworked. A team of about 25 or 30 people. It wasn't a big team that delivered this game. Working silly long hours. A couple of team members actually died during its production, which is absolutely tragic. If they just made another rail shooter, would that have all come to pass? I don't know, but yeah, it's an odd one, mate. But because the game itself, I think, is, again, it's one of the best RPGs of its generation. It stands. It's short, but then
I like that about it.
I like it about it. That's why I play it almost every year. But someone was showing something on Twitter recently saying, bring back the short JRPG, because Dragon Quest on the NES, obviously Dragon Quest is a massive long-running series. You could beat that in 8 hours. So 20 hours for this is, it's fantastic. And I know, if you got disc 1 of Final Fantasy VII with a official PlayStation magazine, that probably would have done you 20 hours because that takes you all the way up to that takes you all the way up into Ares dying, doesn't it? Maybe even beyond that.
Aye. Was somebody shouting spoiler alert or something that was for that one, probably.
God, if you don't know that Ares dies in Final Fantasy 7,
Oh,
Jesus
mate.
Christ.
Oh, right. That just made me a total tangent there, right? Hold on a minute. So, I was in work, this is before lockdown, right? And I was talking to somebody about 24, right? 24, Kiefer
Yeah.
Sutherland. And I happened to mention, we're talking about moments in 24 that shocked you. And I said, straight away, David Palmer being killed, right? Some guy 2 desks away stands up and goes, spoilers. They had just started watching it now. 24, how this is like 18 years later or something like that. I'm like, come on, mate, spoiler. The spoiler window has passed. So, if you don't know that Hades dies in Final Fantasy VII, you've been living under a rock.
Yeah, they're going to change it in the remake as well. Anyway, what is it? Is it Rebirth? The next one? The next they split it into parts, haven't they? So yeah, there's everyone suspects that she's going to live a little bit longer in than this one. So no spoilers. No spoilers if you're planning to just play the remakes. But yeah, it's a short game by RPG standards, but it's just so good, and you can just play it over and over. Chasing those excellent ranks for all the combat. And the combat is I think for my money it's the best battle system ever made. It's just because there's so much action for it. It's not you're not sitting there waiting for stuff to fill up. You're constantly moving.
Aye, exactly. You're still in control of the dragon, of your character. You're still in control of them during the battle, and it's such a brilliant battle mechanic. You know yourself, if you've played it, you've got the kind of radar in the middle, red and green areas. So if you're in green, you're safe. The enemy can't hit you. But if you want to hit the enemy, you need to. It's risk versus reward. You need to time when you're going to go out into the red area, and obviously the weak point is there for you to hit. If you can unleash either your hand weapon, your lasers, you've got like your was it
the berserk?
The berserker, you get the kind of chain lasers as well.
Yeah,
you can fire them. There's a big kind of disc ones as well that you can fire. There's so many different kind of special weapons you've got, but if you stay out there too long, the enemy can hit you. So, you've got to kind of time when to kind of peek in and out. But if you're in the green area, then the enemy can't hit you. But they've got that's a safe spot for them. They've got there's one that you come across, that kind of formation of these. I just look like flying bugs. But yourself, they're kind of green and red, but you go behind them and they fire up like a shield.
Yeah.
And you can fire them and they do a wee bit of damage, but not enough. So you've got to swoop round, and take them out. But the battle system is so good. It does kind of still have that slight element of on rails, even in the exploration areas, because yourself, whenever you get to the kind of canyons, you're kind of going down. You can burst open the kind of wee grey triangular style things, and they pop out like your health or the elixir, or you call it, things that they pop out. Map parts, there's wee bits to save as well, and you've got the little kind of mines, so you can lock onto them and fire and choose which mine to go down. So it's people that are saying it steps away too far from the kind of formula. It still has on rail elements to it, but at the same time there is more open world sections. Like whenever you go and try and get the ship parts later on, you go to that kind of big open kind of area and you've got to fly around, and you do end up getting involved in battles, but they're not as random and annoying as Final Fantasy VII when you walk 2 inches on the map and it's you sit there waiting, standing there like an idiot. You've got a giant, this always annoys me, you've got a giant sword and you stand there and let somebody hit you. It's like, what the hell's that? I've never ever got on with Final Fantasy at all. I just can't go that whole. It doesn't make sense. You've got the biggest sword in the world, man. There's people Right, Mike, just hit us on the chin.
I
My
love
turn
Final.
next.
I do like Final Fantasy. When I've gone into a rant before because I still think it's overrated, but I've got a lot of fondness for it, a lot of nostalgia. But yeah. See, I don't like the new remake where they make it all. They've made it basically like Devil May Cry.
Aye, and they've went the complete other way.
Yeah.
You know, it's mad. It's like total free form, as you say. I like Devil May Cry, smack him up there, and then
Yeah.
like no. But no, Panzer Dragoon Saga's battle mechanics are amazing. You've got the dragon morphing system as
Yeah.
well. You know, just select whether you want to be defensive, offensive, more kind of magic based. Oh, just so good.
It's the way that the dragon changes as well. Again, there's nothing else quite like it out there. You know,
Can you
you've got
can you hear it in your head?
yeah, I can hear it.
Vroom, vroom.
You see them like the tail expanding and
That's
contracting, and the
right.
wings getting bigger and then getting
Oh,
smaller, and the head getting denser.
aye, changing colour from purple to green. Ah,
Yeah, it's
so good.
superb. Yeah, it's one that I play every year. I won't get into my whole spiel about what happened with mine right now, but you know, I played it on release day. Absolutely loved it. Didn't get to play it again until a few years later, and actually have the whole copies for myself. Obviously, the one disc got damaged. As I say, it's a story for another day. We won't take too long to talk about that now, but thankfully, didn't pay too much more than the actual launch price of it in the end. Nothing like it's worth now, but yeah, it's still one game that I love to play over and over again, mate. Yeah, as you say, the battle system's amazing. The bit that you're saying just now with the enemies when you go behind them into like the safe zone and they start throwing up their shields so you can't get them. And then there's those other ones where you can shoot the weak spot, which is like the mother like thing, like, and there's all the other
Oh, that's
form
right.
around it.
Aye.
If you shoot the weak spot, which is like the leader or the mother or the queen or whatever it is, you shoot them and they all scatter away and the battle's over. It's like, congratulations, 2 experience. And if you want more, you've got to take them all out. It's like you got to work for it, boy.
Aye. I know the one it's like it looks like a big kind of trying to be it's like a big kind of insect style blimp thing into it. It's like
Yeah.
in the weak spot, it's this big kind of red area around at the back,
Yeah.
and as you shoot it, it kind of spurts out gunk kind of thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's like all the enemies are quite kind of like organic looking
Yeah,
as
they
well.
are.
Because what's the other ones as well that you fight later on, and they're kind of like big long jaws. The, like,
I
the,
know
the,
the ones
the
made
big
you.
snappy things are just horrible, but they just look angry, like
Yeah.
big
They're
angry air piranhas.
Yeah, they're disgusting, aren't they? Or a lot of the enemies. You've got the Empire's like mechanical stuff, and then you've got the monsters, and it
Aye.
all ties into the fantastic story, which the groundwork was laid in the first game. The second game built on it a bit more, and Saga ties it all together, and it references both games. You see flashbacks to both games. Won't give much away. I know we just said that Ares has died, and we're talking about spoilers for 24. Panzer Dragoon Saga isn't as widely available as those games. If you haven't played it yet, make sure you do. The story is actually pretty phenomenal. Not as overtly epic as other games in the series. It's just very clever, and the final twist at the end is French kissed.
Aye.
Absolutely superb.
Aye. It's definitely a game that warrants the purchase of an ODE, or if you want to go down the kind of emulation route, Saturn emulation. I think there's been updates on like cores for Mister and stuff like that. They're getting better as well. So these kind of methods, are don't be putting 600-700 quid in somebody's pocket, man. Just go and buy yourself a Japanese Saturn or a PAL Saturn with a broken disk drive and stick an ODE in it and enjoy it for a fraction of the price. Because the thing is, it's one of these games that every Sega fan should have a chance to experience. Panzer Dragoon Saga. It's that, I think you touched on it, the kind of tragic circumstances around, a couple of the members of Team Andromeda passing away, the kind of crunch that they were under to get it completed. I think their work deserves an audience far greater than what it's been given. And it's just, don't go into it. All I'll say is don't go into Panzer Dragoon Saga if you play it thinking this is a rare, expensive game. Just go into it with a clean slate. It's another extension of the Panzer Dragoon world, and just let it work its charm. Listen to the mute, listen to Behold the Precious Wings. Just look at the art style. Just get involved in it. Like the opening, the cutscene, the CGI cutscene, the level of detail is beautiful for the time.
Yeah.
The way that the art style that it's drawn. You've seen the cover for the game. Edge on there. He's represented so perfectly from his CG form on the cover to the cutscene. It's just so well drawn. We've taken the piss out the oh hello all that, but it's just go into it with don't think about its rarity or its value. Just turn it on and play it and just let it work its magic. Yeah, there's some bits that look a bit kind of ropey in like certain areas, maybe a bit of slowdown, but in the main, it's just enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, the last segment I've got on here is just what makes these games so special. I know we've touched on it a bit, but the obviously we've just been talking about the story and the setting, the influences that drove it, and how it's all tied together. It's just very unique. I don't think you get too many in the indie scene. You do get some games that can be kind of comparable, but you don't really get any, kind of post-apocalyptic settings like you see in Panzer Dragoon these days. It was very unique, and even though because it took inspiration from various sources, it's not like you got your Fallouts, which is obviously a wasteland, but that's very much a parody on 50s culture. You got your kind of your Mad Max sort of inspired games. Panzer Dragoon really is something in itself. There's nothing out there that's quite like the setting that it gives the player, is there?
No, I mean, excuse me, Panzer Dragoon made dragons fashionable before Khaleesi did. She's shouting Dracarys. We don't need no Dracarys. We just lock on those lasers and just let them fly. It's a special series, and again, it goes back to that thing. And another one that there's no reason why Sega can't bring it back themselves. It's whether I don't know. People talk about source code being missing for Saga, and that's why they can't re-release it. But just re-release it on one of the a mini console or something like that. If they ever go down that route, possibly something they could do, emulate it. Whether they decide to ever do a mini Saturn, but there's just so much about it. I mean, the music, the way it sets the scene, the visual style, as you said, the kind of lore around it, the whole universe has been built up around it, but the battling the Empire and just I could literally sit and go on about Panzer Dragoon for hours, mate. I just think it's such a gorgeous series that it was Sega coming out with the Saturn and basically going, right, we've got a new IP here, boom. We're not going to give you another Sonic. At that point, Sonic Extreme was still in the works. It was going to be happening, but you've got your Virtua Fighter, got your Daytona, got your arcade ports. Here's a brand new IP doing something completely different, cinematic in terms of making the most of that CD audio, giving you an orchestral soundtrack. I mean, we don't want to kind of dig. Again, we're going to do a more retrospective, but Yoshitaka Azuma, who did the soundtrack, as I mentioned before, he composed parts of the soundtrack or all of the soundtrack to gameplay footage.
Yeah.
Again, that's something that film does so well. Like, you watch a movie, the music seems to be reacting to what happens on the screen. That's what happens in Panzer Dragoon. The music, at the time, nothing had done that. No game had done that. You were getting music and that was all part of the experience. It tied in, that it felt like, what your actions on screen were influencing the music. Just, as you said earlier, chef kiss.
I mean, the soundtrack really does deserve a special mention. You were listening to the Saga soundtrack, The Whole Precious Rings. We were talking about the Atom theme earlier, how that plays in the intro. Yeah. Saga has amazing music, orchestral and epic, but sometimes there's quite a tribal feel to a lot of the themes.
Yeah.
It really gives you this feeling of this, this savage, desolate wasteland that they live in. This world that's been ravaged by the generations that lived before, and this quite massive cataclysm that's happened. You've got these tribes, and you've got the empire that's kind of imposing its will on everyone, and these raw monsters that are out there just causing absolute havoc. I do like the contrast between Panzer 2 and the original, where you've got, as you say, the original game. They wrote the soundtrack to the actual gameplay, so it's just absolutely perfect. Whereas 2, because you've got the divergent routes and everything like that, it has to be a lot more reactive, and it's fantastic in its own way. Not quite. It's because it's done via the Saturn zone. It's not done on Red Book audio like the first game is, so it's not like a full CD soundtrack, but it uses the Saturn's instrumentation, and it's absolutely incredible. And then the visuals as well for all 3 games. Panzer Dragoon's always been a high watermark for visuals. We talked about Zwei being, levels above what was out there on everything else. And the original Panzer Dragoon was a head turner when people first saw it. I don't think too many people give Saga its due for visuals. I've heard people say that it's not great looking. I know it uses the same engine as the first 2 games, just adapted to make it an RPG. But I think Saga's stunning. On disc, is it disc 2 where you're in the ruins, and is it Uru ruins, I think, and the time of day changes. So it starts off, and again, you've got some transparencies there. You've got this huge watery wasteland out there, all this sort of broken architecture like hanging out of it. This beautiful water that just goes on forever, and there's a bit of clipping because you've got the cliff edge that comes in. But then you go in and you unlock things and you move the scenery about. It is this too, I think. And as you move the scenery about and come out, then the time of day shifts, and then then it's sunset, and then there's this orange tinge coming through all the windows and everything. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And then you finally get it, and it's like nighttime when you finish it, and then you have this. Again, no spoilers here, but you have this you have a boss battle and an amazing cutscene, an absolutely phenomenal cutscene, which I've tried to capture through pictures on my phone. It just doesn't do it justice. It's one of those ones where, in your mind's eye, it's absolutely incredible, and the effects on show there are outrageous for the Sega Saturn.
I know Saga's got some. I mean, I think Saga, lighting effect wise, eclipses the first 2 games. I think what it does with lighting. I mean, the campsite alone, when you save, the fire you've got, it sounds daft, but the glow that comes off that it actually feels warm. But yourself, whenever you go to the kind of settlements, and if you arrive at too early to speak to someone, and you go to the gate and you put the reticle on it and you press a button that says leave or wait till morning, or you can wait till night time, if you arrive too early, whatever. But again, you mentioned that sunset glow, like the actual villages totally change their appearance based on the time of day, the lighting. Like if you get it really early in the morning, you get that kind of lovely kind of sunrise. It's overly bright, quite saturated. But as the time moves on, obviously it gets kind of more normalised. Then it gets into dark, nighttime, kind of dusk and dawn and things like that. And the lighting just changes. It changes the whole mood of like places you visit. And I know people kind of look at the character model for Edge whenever you're doing exploration on foot, and he's a bit blocky, and he's running animations a wee bit kind of odd looking, but that to me adds to a lot of the charm. The village areas, like yourself, is one of the village areas you go to, because you get the parts, and you kind of run through that ice tunnel you run through. Yourself, you go up to the left, up the stairs, across, down, and then round, and that lovely ice. And there's a wee bit of slowdown in that ice cavern every time you run through it. But again, depending on the time of day, because of the kind of light that's coming through the tunnel, it changes tint. And it just adds to it. It's so atmospheric. It's just.
You get that, because I was thinking that you go into the campsite with the with the the guy that goes, "Oh, the pendant you have there." You go there at night, it's just a guy and he's got a shelf full of stuff. You go there if you go there at the jet, he's got a load of stuff. You go there at night, he's got his lantern on, and the stuff in his shelf is glowing. There's something in there that's bright green, and in there, like when you run through that tunnel, it's like the northern lights in there. And the evening, and you go through and you go around to that guy who's got the drinks in the bar, and he's kind of in that swiveling chair. And everything's glowing in. Oh, it's so magical. God, I'm going to want to play all 3 of these back to back now, aren't I?
I know. I think I'm just going to probably play Zwei whenever we finish.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, why we love it. Hopefully, that's coming across. Obviously, the series didn't stop. We're just focusing on the Sega Saturn games for today.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had a few extras. We had Panzer Dragoon Mini on the Game Gear. Which, if you thought Saga was the most expensive game that you can buy in this series, Mini is even more expensive.
Yeah, go look that one up and give yourselves a fright, folks.
Yeah, and it's not an especially good game. Obviously, you haven't got the rotation. It's just it's like a space harrier with a dragon. It's full on focused. Not great. Auto though. Phenomenal game on the Xbox.
Yep.
Love Auto. Backwards compatible with Xbox One and Xbox Series consoles, which is brilliant because that actually has the original game in there. I picked the special port of the original game that's unlockable in there.
So Pandora's box, isn't it?
Yeah. But Auto was, it didn't feature. It wasn't made by Futasugi. It was someone else headed this one up, but it's still very special. I don't think it quite captures the magic of the original games. It kind of feels like its own thing. It's kind of got its own identity, and it adds a bit of complexity in the acceleration and deceleration as well.
Aye, it's a good game. Don't get him. I remember whenever it got its Xbox One X enhanced patch to make it, proper. It ramps up to 4K and whatnot. But and that's carried over onto Series X as well. But it does. It's part of the same universe, but it feels like a very different game.
Yeah.
Still like a great game and well worth playing. Don't get me wrong. Doesn't go for kind of thing. It's about 18, 20 quid or something to buy it physically. It's not expensive at all.
I'll tell you what is expensive.
What?
Have you seen the Japanese special edition console?
No. The Panzer Dragoon Xbox?
Yeah.
Aye.
It's
I've seen it, but how much? What does it go for?
Goes for at least £500, that one.
Aye. It's a white one with the purple logo, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yep. Aye, crazy money. But it's a stunning console. That one, I'm sure there's a guy on X. It's an Xbox collector, and he's got loads of different. He's got the Mountain Dew one and various Halo ones. I'm sure he's posted that he's got that one as well. So, that doesn't surprise me. It goes for daft money.
Yeah, so Auto's great. There was the remake, which I did enjoy. It's not a replacement for the first game because for me, the remake just kind of removed a lot of the kind of loneliness, the desolation.
Yeah.
Felt like a completely different game, but still a good one with the original art, especially after the patches. Originally, before the patches, the game was a little bit ropey. The targeting was off, but it feels a lot better to play now. I do have it on Xbox. I originally got it on the Switch through Limited Run Games. But I've got it on Xbox. I got it £40 for Limited Run Games to get the cartridge when that came out. But I didn't even get it on release. It wasn't until the third patch that I got the cartridge. It was like months later, which was frustrating, but meant I had a better version of the game in physical form. But then I got the Xbox version. I paid £2.30 for. It was a 90% off sale.
I wish they far off that either, by the way. That's it. I think that's one of the problems with the remake. It's too busy.
Yeah.
But it tries to overdo it, kind of killing you with detail. It's like it as you said, it didn't need that much. You just taking the first game as it stood and just ramped it up to modern standards. That'd have been fine, but just threw too much in. Even though it follows the exact same path, I still found myself getting quite confused by it. Even I should know what's coming.
Yeah,
it's a lot often enough.
I found it a lot easier than the original game. I think it's a lot more forgiving in terms of kind of targeting and movement. But yeah, it was so busy. It's like the first game you got, I mean, it's just like this sunken ruins. It's just ocean as far as the eye can see, and just a few like bit of jagged, broken scenery in the foreground. But then in the remake, it's like these huge mountains sitting up there. There's a tree over here. There's like all this stuff up in the distance, which very nice, very visually impressive. But that's not Panzer Dragoon.
No, no,
No.
that just totally takes away from what made the game what it was. The setting is part of the allure of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last game I thought we'd briefly touch on did actually get produced by Yukio Futasugi. I have not actually played this one. It got savaged in reviews for some reason. But that is Crimson Dragon. Do you remember this?
I remember I've not played it.
So that was a launch game for Xbox One. I can't remember. It was supposed to use Kinect. I can't remember if it did in the end. That was kind of, I remember seeing a little bit of footage for it. I've never actually picked it up, and I can't remember if it's digital only. I would like to play it one day, but yeah, it was Futasugi himself that actually headed this one up and said that if it was successful, he'd like to work on on an RPG version of it. But lo and behold, Xbox One launch was 10 years ago now, and sadly
not
we've not
going to happen.
No, sadly not. But interesting to see that he's still got the passion for that sort of series. Unfortunately, he's just making mobile games now.
The waste, isn't it, really?
Yeah, obviously an extremely talented guy. So not sure what happened with Crimson Dragon, but I'd like to play it one day. See what's bad. If it's as bad. It looks a bit. I remember seeing a bit of it, and it looked a bit too westernized for me. It didn't have quite the mystique. You were going around and you had some sort of commander telling. It was like a tutorial. The bit that I saw, and it was like, no, now swoop in and take the enemy from the rear, and you think, not really, no.
No, you're not meant to be told that was a great thing about Panzer Dragoon. It just didn't hold your hand, it just let you go.
Yeah.
Again, you were instantly in control.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the magic behind it, isn't it? There's always this bond between the rider and the dragon. Whether it's Lundy and Laggy in Panzer Dragoon Zwei, he finds this mutant coolia, and then they kind of bond over time. But then in the original Panzer Dragoon and in Saga, you sort of had this moment where they kind of come within touching distance, and then they have like this transfer of melding of their memories or consciousness over, and all of a sudden it's like you're a killing machine on the back of a dragon.
Unlimited power.
But yeah, there's this whole magic and mysticism to the game, mate, which I think rounds it all off. And for me, it kind of is the embodiment of the Saturn itself in that respect. Something misunderstood, but full of mystery, lots of unknowns, just kind of never to be replicated. Just a very special series, a very special moment in time.
Right, definitely a product of its time, mate. And maybe the advancements in technology to bring it back, as we'll see with the remake, might not be a good thing unless people are going to actually do it the justice. But you mentioned about Crimson Dragon being too westernized. I think gaming is very westernized now. I think we've lost, and that's one of the things I'd kind of touched on X as well. I miss Japan being the epicenter of gaming. I miss all the innovation coming out of Japan. I miss, in a way, the import scene. I know we don't need to wait a year anymore for things to come out, but I just think there's just something special about whenever the way the Japanese view games. It's just so creative. I think if they tried to do a Panzer Dragoon just now, whoever took it on, I just think, as you've seen with the remake, it loses a little bit of its kind of soul a wee bit.
Yeah.
And I think, with Team Andromeda having the kind of legacy and the history that they've got with these games, I think that they're very much the embodiment of them. They're a testament to them. The work that they've done, the people involved, the people that were sadly, lost during production of Saga. So they are a fitting tribute to a once brilliant creative team.
Yeah, Yeah, perfectly put, mate. Perfectly put. I think that's a great place to leave it. It's a truly magical series that we'd love to see come back, but sadly, I don't think we'll ever see it replicated exactly as it was on the hardware and the time that it was in. It was truly a special moment. So, mate, it's been an absolute blast talking through this with you. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. We'll throw it over to our viewers and our listeners, those of you in the comments, in the live chat, those of you on the Radio Sega Discord. Let us know what your thoughts, feelings are for Panzer Dragoon. Where did you first encounter the series? What's your favourite entry? Does it hold the same place in your heart as it seems to do for us? Please let us know. Get in touch. You can talk to us via the Radio Sega Discord, via the comments below, or get in touch with us on X. Still going to call it Twitter. You can get in touch with us via Twitter. You can find me at Swooper_D. You can find James at the Segaholic. You can find the account at Sega Guys. Until next time, we will see you on the Sega side.
Cheers, guys. Sega.